Well, like many of us, the royals have a lot of work to pack in before Christmas, and this week they were back zooming the world. Rebecca is with us again now. Rebecca, let's start with Prince Harry. What's he been up to this week?
Yes, so Prince Harry has given a Q&A session to the founders of WaterBear, which is a free Netflix-style streaming service for environmental programs. And like a lot of what Prince Harry does, the sentiments are very laudable. I, for one, am delighted he's talking about the environment and climate change on a very public stage. But unfortunately for Harry, the issue is often now in the delivery, whether it's people feel like they're preaching, he's preaching to them. He's kind of a lack of self-awareness of the fact that he's saying this from a 16-bathroom mansion in California, or as we've seen this week, using some quite kind of whimsical and kind of hippy-dippy phrases. He was making an important point. He was saying we're all small parts of a bigger jigsaw. And, we can all still do our bit in trying to combat climate change. But he started talking about kind of raindrops falling on a parched earth. And unfortunately, I think his message slightly gets lost in that. And it is a very, very important message.
However, he does seem to be absolutely loving this new sort of woke persona, doesn't he?
He does, and I think he feels quite unshackled at the moment. He's got free of the palace. He doesn't have that yoke of responsibility around his neck, and I think he feels quite emboldened about it. And I suspect he couldn't care less what anybody thinks.
Perhaps maybe William as well. I see his brother has also been back on video on an environmental campaign. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so every year, this time of year, Prince William takes part in the Tusk Trust, I would say, and it's a conservation charity he's passionate about and he's been involved with for many years. But of course, they are not able to hold their award ceremony, so he took part in it and gave a virtual award online. And despite lockdown being lifted, I suspect that's something we will see a lot of even moving into 2021.
Now, tell us about Dad and stepmum Charles and Camilla are out and about and just about to go out. What are they going to be up to?
I really love this. So lockdown's been lifted in London and Charles and Camilla are out with a vengeance, trying to throw a kind of shed a light and show some solidarity with our tourism, arts and entertainments industries, which have all been massively hit by COVID. And as I speak, they are visiting the 100 Club in London. Now, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but the 100 Club is quite a well-known and legendary live music venue. And actually, it was a bit of a punk palace in times past. I mean, the Sex Pistols have played there, The Clash, Susie and the Banshees. I think I might have even had the odd drunken student night there many moons ago. So, Charles,
forgive me, but Rebecca, is this the first time Charles has visited the 100 Club? It's not a natural fit for me.
I know, but that's what I love about it. They are, this is the new normal for us, and they want to go out there and beat the drum for industries that have been, such as live music, they've been really hit this year. The industry's on its knees. And, if it means going to a punk palace like the 100 Club, then so be it. That's his duty. That's what he'll do.
Charles and Camilla at the Punk Palace 100 Club, Richard. Are you feeling it?
It's what we need. I mean, the nightclubs are not even open yet, really, are they? But they're straight
they are
in.
For the royals.
I was out at lunch yesterday, and there was Joan Collins there. So it's good to see the older generation are setting an example and trying to get things back to life again. Really.
Have you been to the 100 Club? Have you?
I've never been.
No. Is it cool? Is it still a punk palace?
I must admit, I've never been there.
Probably not supposed to say punk palace without masks on. But let's go on to Harry. So Victoria, he's going to wind up a lot of his critics with this new Zoom thing about raindrops, isn't he?
Yeah, it does seem to have divided opinion. I mean, for me, I think the thing that stood out and is standing out with Harry is his style, I think, has changed. So he's always been very open and very kind of heart on sleeve and quite emotional when he speaks, and when he gives interviews he's very giving and he talks and talks and talks, and sometimes you can see his press people thinking, okay, enough, but he really is very giving. He always gives a lot of information, and I feel that recently he's definitely become, I think, more polished in his style. I think since he met Meghan, he's really kind of upped his game in terms of his public speaking style. She's a very, very good public speaker, and I feel
more
that
American, perhaps.
Yeah. And I felt that his comments they seemed maybe rehearsed, or they seemed that they had been thought through very carefully and perhaps not as spontaneous as we might have seen him perhaps in the past. And you can look at that both ways. You know, it's a very different way of doing things, and he seems to be going more towards that more kind of rehearsed, more polished, and perhaps more flowery language as well.
What's your view, my little raindrop, Richard?
Well, you're very kind, Victoria, but I sort of, the problem I have is that it sort of screams inauthenticity, I think, with Harry. It doesn't feel like his words at all, and I can imagine Meghan making a speech like this, but when Harry, you know, the old Harry that we used to know, starts talking about us all being raindrops, it just...
I guess people are allowed to grow up.
Yeah, it's very LA, isn't it? And it's kind of, it emphasised the fact that we do feel more and more distance from him, I think, and some of his old friends, they really must think, what's he on about now?
Well, maybe they always knew this Harry and we didn't.
Possibly, yeah.
Who knows? I mean, his father obviously used to get a lot of stick for the sort of like talking to plants, tree-hugging persona. Is this, maybe the apple just doesn't fall far from the tree?
Yeah, I mean, Charles has definitely said things in the past. You know, obviously his very famous comment about talking to plants, but he's not really shied away from that. You know, I think he said a few years later, or many years later, you know, I instruct them actually instead. And when Clarence House put out 70 facts for his 70th birthday, one of the facts was that he, after planting a tree, gives it a little handshake. So, you know, he's not kind of tried to distance himself from that sort of persona at all. And I think in some ways, some people respond really well to that, and you know, maybe we're all kind of becoming a bit more sensitive and a bit more kind of in tune with...
Well, look, it's got us talking about a very important subject, hasn't it?
Well, we're talking about Harry.
Yeah.